What's up, family, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to have a little bit of a fun one because I had an incredible weekend where there was some ups and downs because of travel, but really an incredible weekend, and I want to share a little bit about it. This weekend, I was at the Recovering from Religion Fall Excursion, so today, that's going to be the subject of our conversation, and I really hope you're ready for this one. If you haven't already, please be sure to make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell, and consider either joining this community or supporting the content on this channel or supporting the community in whatever way that makes sense for you. And then, of course, check out our merch because it is some of the dopest in the game. And we're doing our best to keep new merch rolling out as much as we can. As a matter of fact, there was just a recent Discord poll in our server that suggested some new merch, and there was a clear winner. Kyle let me know, so I got to go back in there and see who the winner was so we can get that new merch out. All right, I think I've covered all of my bases. Like this video. All right, let's go. So I want to start just by because I don't want to assume that all of you are familiar with Recovering from Religion. So I want to give you a little background about them. So Recovering from Religion is a nonprofit organization that supports individuals dealing with religious doubt, those leaving their faith, and those grappling with religious trauma. It was founded in 2009 by psychologist Dr. Darrell Ray, who also wrote the book The God Virus, which explores how religion impacts people's lives and cultures. RFR's mission is not to lead people away from religion, but to provide support for those questioning their faith or transitioning out of religious environments, which I think is key. I think that's something that people actually overlook about people like us who do this work. Our goal is not necessarily to lead people away from religion, but to create space for those who are leaving religion. You see how that makes sense? All right, so the organization offers several key resources. They offer peer support. They provide a hotline and chat service where individuals can talk to trained volunteers who provide non judgmental support. These volunteers help individuals process their doubts and explore their options in a safe space. But they also have the Secular Therapy Project, which was established in 2012. This initiative connects individuals with licensed therapists who use evidence based practices without incorporating religious or faith based interventions. They also host both in person and virtual support groups in multiple countries. These groups are designed to foster community and provide a platform for shared experiences among those who have left or are in the process of leaving religion. And in many of these ways, recovering from religion is the work that they do highly resonates with the work that we do. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed this weekend so much. There was even a moment in the closing ceremony where they were talking about their logo. And do you know what the logo for Recovering from Religion is? It's a bridge. And for those of you who know, my Sunday Sessions crew, for those of you who know, that's actually the name of one of our organizations, The Bridge, in Bridge City. And so it's like, yes, these are these are people who get it. And I was surprised to find out that Recovering from Religion started in 2009. This is right around the same time that I was deconverting. And they also have what they call RFRX talks, which are weekly virtual talks that feature experts on topics ranging from religious trauma to mental wellness and relationships. These sessions are followed by open discussions, allowing participants to ask questions and engage with the speaker. And I have actually been one of the featured folk on here. I didn't know that I was an expert, but I like to see that. But Recovering from Religion is dedicated to addressing the psychological, emotional, and social challenges that come with religious doubt and deconversion. They also acknowledge that many who leave religion face fractured relationships and experience symptoms of religious trauma syndrome, which I think I am going to do an entire video on religious trauma syndrome. So we'll talk about that later, which of course can include cognitive dissonance, emotional distress, and social isolation. The organization has grown significantly over the years and continues to provide vital resources to those navigating life after religion. Now, the Recovering from Religion Fall Excursion, which is what I attended this weekend, is an annual event organized is an annual event, sorry, organized by Recovering from Religion aimed at providing a safe, supportive environment for individuals who are grappling with religious doubt or transitioning away from their faith. The event features a mix of workshops, group activities, and social gatherings, offering attendees a chance to connect with others who have similar experiences. These they have workshops and discussions, and these sessions focus on personal growth, secular living, and overcoming religious trauma. Topics often include dealing with the fear of hell, creating new non-religious traditions, and dogma-free discussions on human sexuality, which I enjoyed those sessions thoroughly. There's also social activities like nature hikes, cookouts, and karaoke nights, and these are designed to foster a sense of community and provide opportunities for attendees to unwind in a relaxed atmosphere. Which is one thing that we did talk through in our Thesis of Secular Community Sunday sessions, series of Sunday sessions rather, was this idea that secular community is actually just normal community. It's yes, we organize around a cause, but we do the work. Was the old adage, work hard, play hard. That's basically the language of community, because community does take work. We have to organize around a cause that has a problem statement and a solution statement. And while we are working around those causes, we are also working together. And that's really where the community comes in at. I remember we were having a conversation. I want to say it was on Black Free Thinkers, not last night's episode, which I wasn't able to make, but the episode before, where they were trying to figure out, like, how do we build community? And then we ended up slipping over into this idea. It's like it's easier to build community when you're working together. And so then, like, imagine you're working on a project together. You imagine the people that you've went out to bars with before. You imagine the people that you've went fishing with before. Like 70% of those situations stem from you being at work with this person or working on something with this person. And you say, hey, you want to get a beer? You know what I'm saying? And so it's the work. The work leads to community. It's amazing how many people I meet who are adverse to the idea of work, and it's amazing to me, and that's a whole nother conversation, but okay. um so so I did say and then of course the support groups, which um, they have sessions for participants to share their struggles, particularly with issues like fear of the afterlife and dealing with religious indoctrination. Now, obviously, I have no fear of the afterlife. That's just that just makes for me. I'm not telling you it shouldn't make sense for you. I said it makes no sense for me, right? Anytime I'm talking on my channel, I'm talking about me, not you. And so that's why when some of you come and give me your opinion to correct me, that's why I treat you like the child that you are. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not trying to tell anybody to think like I think. I'm just exercising the freedom to express my thoughts. And if you try to police that in any shape, form, or fashion, I'm going to treat you like the Nazi that you are. All right? Oh, child Nazis. Okay, I want to see that cartoon now. Okay. So, the fall excursion also provides a welcoming space for those who may still be questioning their beliefs without pressure to fully identify as atheist or non believers. The event is inclusive of both individuals and families, offering accommodations and programs that cater to various needs. Lodging is typically in comfortable cabins, and meals are provided as a part of the registration, which means this is all inclusive, and you have a hard time finding all inclusive vacations these days on the on the, what do you say, state side, coast side, I don't know, onshore, yeah, there we go, onshore. But it's really nice. So you pay this one price, and they're not stiffing you like many of the conferences that I've been to, where you're paying $800, and you still have to do donations, and you still have to do offerings, and you still have to sometimes buy your own food. And this, I don't exactly remember the cost of this because my cost was covered, and I'll jump into why later. Um, but yeah, it's all inclusive, and it was such a liberating opportunity and experience for me that next year I was like, I definitely want to bring my whole family. I want to bring my kids, my wife, because number one, the scenery was beautiful, and I'm a Southerner, little country boy from Alabama. I love nature. I love the aesthetics of nature. I love trees. I love listening to water. I like listening to the wind rustle through the leaves. I like hearing stuff fall out the trees. I like running through the grass. But there was also a pool. It wasn't operational, but it was there. There was a pool. There was a basketball court. There was rock climbing walls and stuff. and my kids would go absolutely fanatical about that. Um, so it really is awesome. Um, this year it was held at Camp Holiday Trails in Virginia, which is a scenic, secluded venue that promotes relaxation and reflection. Similar to previous excursions, it featured a mix of outdoor activities, workshops, and group discussions designed to help individuals find healing and community after leaving religion. This event is part of Recovering from Religion's broader mission to provide ongoing support for those navigating life after faith, with the goal of building a secular community that fosters personal growth, well being, and acceptance. So now I want to actually talk about the events that I got to participate in. So, first, I was scheduled to leave. I was scheduled to be there Friday, around the time that everything was getting started, which I don't know if I still have that page up to know what time that was. I don't. I think it was Friday. I think it was sometime around noon when all the festivities were going to kick off. I was scheduled to be there. I was initially scheduled to be there early that morning, but then my flight got pushed back a little bit, so I was scheduled to be there, right on time, and then my flight got pushed back some more, and so then I was scheduled to be there, maybe a little late in the afternoon, and then finally my flight got pushed back so many times that I didn't get there until Saturday afternoon. Hoy. And so that was 17 hours. I was living off of 2 hours of sleep. I took the Uber from the airport in Charlottesville to Camp Holiday Trails. Me and my Uber driver, which my Uber driver was a Middle Eastern man, so you got a Middle Eastern man and a black guy, driving up into these hills in Virginia, and the roads started getting narrower and narrower and narrower, and things started getting a little scary. And he even got to a point where he was like, I think this is going to be the furthest I can take you. And so the other people had to come back down and pick me up, which I wasn't too mad at because I got to really enjoy the scenery. The spot that he dropped me off at was the main office, and I got to just look at the mountains, look at the trees, look at over the fields, and it was right by this water reservoir type thing. So it was really cool. So it took me a long time to get there. I didn't get to enjoy the festivities from the first day, which there were quite a few things that I did want to participate in. One of them was the wind down, which was was going to include drinks, and so I wanted the drinks. I didn't get any drinks the whole time I was on this trip, and so that was disappointing. But that was because of flight arrangements. Okay, so but I do want to talk about some of the things that I did get to participate in. One of the first events that I walked in to on that Saturday was Candace Gorham doing talking about secular grief. And that was just an amazing conversation because so many times, and I think I've talked a little bit about this on my channel, is that when you are surrounded by people who presuppose your religious nature, your religious ideology, or your spirituality, or what may have you, when you're dealing with grief, there's always people who are trying to give you these very spiritual or religious anecdotes or advice or guidance, which is, in my opinion, in most cases is not helpful. And I say that as someone who was on the other side. I know disingenuous Christians said, "Oh, this is exactly what I needed." And I'm like, no, what you have to understand is that these people are, I know this is going to sound a little condescending, but I don't mean it condescendingly. I mean it as a reality. If these people have accepted the fact, if these people have accepted the placebo effect of their imaginary friend, then they are incapable of measuring the efficacy of help. You understand? Like if you accept the placebo effect, you don't understand efficacy. You know, so yes, there are Christians who say, "No, this gives me what I need," but you've never followed them home. You've never had to counsel them. I have, and so I know that it doesn't. At least from what I've seen, doesn't give them hope. And so the secular grief conversation was a great conversation, so we can talk about grief without superstition. You know, we can talk about grief without gods. There was also the identifying values workshop, which, whoa, I think I was sitting at a table with Candace Gorham and Deanna from Black Nonbelievers. And there was a few other people at the table, but I'm horrible with names, okay? So I'm not really horrible with names, but I'm not as good as I'd like to be, or as other people would like me to be. That's the best way to say that. But in the identifying values workshop, it wasn't just about identifying your secular values. It was actually about identifying the values you kind of adopted growing up and why you adopted those values, or values you were impacted by. So one of the values that I was impacted by growing up is that worldly knowledge is useless, and for some people it was worldly knowledge. In my family, it was knowledge is useless. And it really was worldly knowledge, like what's how do you say it, like the old folks wise knowledge. That's real knowledge. Street knowledge, that's real knowledge. Spiritual knowledge, that's real knowledge. Secular knowledge, scientific knowledge, mathematical knowledge, knowledge that you get a degree, you know what I'm saying? Any of that, that's nothing. That's just as filthy rags. So much so I remember being at my at a lady who I call Granny. She's actually my great aunt, but I call her Granny because she helped raise my mom and myself. But one of her daughters got a degree several years ago, and a few years ago we was in a conversation. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. My aunt Step did get her degree," and my granny's first word was, "That don't mean shit," you know. And that's very much a part of the environment that I grew up in. Both sides of my family were highly intellectuals. Yeah. And the majority of the churches that I was involved in when I was a younger person were majority anti-intellect, anti-science, anti-math. Intelligence was considered arrogance. And so you could only be humble by not seeking intelligence. You seeking intelligence meant you wanted to be a know-it-all, you know? Which I don't understand how know it all is actually like a dig. Oh, so you just know everything. Well, apparently I know a little bit more than you. And so relatively, I guess that could be everything. Now, let me stop. But no, like I don't, people are weird. But yeah, so I thought that was great. Another one was this idea of humility, that, which for me really just became a false sense of humility. The idea of modesty. These are different values that we developed. But then also a good friend who I'm going to talk about a little more that I met, he highlighted just the idea of growing up and getting this value of not bothering people because parents and I, he's also from the South. So and so I was like, man, I wonder is this a Southern thing? But I know in the South, children, when I was growing up in my family context, children are better seen and not heard. These were type of languages that people would use. Many parents that I saw, including my own mother, it was always stop aggravating me. You're aggravating me, and that was the thing that he was talking about his relationship with his dad. And so one of the values he adopted was to try not to be a bother to people. Like, and that's whew. So you can see that's getting kind of heavy already, right? It's getting kind of heavy. Sorry. So and that was done by Dr. Travis, and I really enjoyed that. I was just getting there. I caught the end of Candace's of the secular grief, and was able to get right into Dr. Travis's identifying values workshop. Loved it. Then everybody broke out into support groups. Now, because I was there for a different reason, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, I didn't get to participate in the other support groups, but a part of the work that we were doing, I did get to participate in one, and well, actually two. And so, but I have to tell you about that afterwards. So there was also the Recovering from Religion After Dark, Reclaiming Sexuality and Sex Ed Q&A. And this was done by Dr. Darrell Ray, Glenda Jordan, and David Clinton. Oh my goodness, y'all. This was likely a conversation that I have been craving my entire life. Being able to talk about human sexuality as adults, where no one is in there with this cringe factor, and no one is like, "Oh no, you're saying something ugly or dirty or nasty, disgusting, and it's making me want to touch myself, and I don't want to tell anybody." It was just a whole bunch of adults being honest with their questions, being honest with their experiences, and we're all learning things because we've tried to repress human sexuality into a box, and it's just like, oh man, human sexuality is a wonderful spectrum of experience, and there's just so many good things we can get out of good sex. So I don't know why we're running from this shit. And so it felt excellent just to have a conversation around sex without talking about pseudo spirituality, without talking about superstition, and without talking about prudish, simpleton prudish shit. You know what I'm saying? It was amazing, and I can't thank Dr. Ray, Glenda, and David enough for really being, pioneers, especially Dr. Ray, in this conversation. Because it's needed. That's one of the reasons why we're in the trust issues series on Sunday sessions. It's because I had someone reach out to me about another atheist content creator, because he had found out something about that content's creator sexual life that made him believe, well, I can't trust him if he's doing those type of things. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, dude, that's that religious bathwater. Like, that's that religious afterbirth. Get that shit off of you, man. Like, no. But it's amazing. And in his mind, he was protecting himself. And I'm like, no, dude, you just dehumanized another person because they choose to live differently than you. Yeah. So I don't care if you're an atheist or a believer. Dehumanization is not okay with me. Otherizing people. Like, stop trying to vicariously live through other people. Other people don't owe you their experiences. Like, I often explain to people, and I think I explained it to that young man as well, because he was like, well, this is bad for me, so I know this is bad for other people. And I'm like, no, onions are bad to me. I have an aversion. I have a biological aversion to onions. That doesn't mean they're bad for everybody. So, like, you what happens in your life only governs your life. Don't you dare use that to judge anybody else's life. Like, grow the fuck up, people. That's always going to be my message. And I'll say it with a smile sometimes, but I don't feel the need to smile all the damn time. Grow the fuck up, you know? All right, so I did enjoy that. Dr. Ray, if you see this, Glenda, if you see this, David, if you see this, thank y'all. Thank y'all for being honest. Thank you for being human. Thank you for shining lights on areas that I wasn't even, aware of. It was a wonderful experience. Oh, and then I do have to talk about like, there were so many highlights for me, okay? The ritual without religion got really emotional. And that's actually going to be included. Well, I'll talk about that later. Okay. So the ritual without religion is going to be was really emotional. It was led by Glenda Jordan, um, as well as Gail Jordan. And so many of you probably participated in bonfire rituals before, right? Where because they do them in church. I never participated in church, but I've been a part of them, but like I didn't burn anything. The only thing I've ever burnt is when I got saved. Well, I guess I did participate. I did my own. I burnt all of my secular CDs when I got really, really serious and got filled with the Holy Ghost with evidence of speaking in tongues and all that jazz, and felt that there was a calling on my life and that I could no longer listen to secular music or perform secular music. So I turned down a record deal that I had, and I burned all of my CDs. So I have participated in one of these. Had to think it through. But so on that night, which was Saturday night, um, so many people shared about their own religious trauma, their own religious experiences, and they all brought something to the fire to throw in. Not expecting anything magical to happen, just as a way to kind of make that public confession or that public reveal, to share this information and to say it out loud so you can finally kind of let it go, or at least hear yourself letting it go, which is so important because that's how we feed our mental health. And it's also doing it around a group of supportive people where no one is going to be there saying, well, you sure you want to do that? And so people were burning Bibles that were given to them as gifts, specifically ones that were given to them when people found out they were no longer believers. They were burning things that were connected to purity culture and things that had led them to, at some point in their life, hate themselves. A gentleman who became one of my close friends, he burnt a piece of cardboard. He said, just a piece of garbage. It's just a piece of waste. But when I finally deconverted after 63 years of being a believer and being a pastor, and that's what my life felt like, that I had wasted my life. Whew. Like, it was powerful stuff. I participated. I didn't bring anything to participate because my work week was so busy. But seeing everybody else participate, I rushed and wrote two scriptures down that had guided my life and that had really worked to rob me of my authenticity, my agency, and my autonomy. And I burnt that in the fire. And I'm not gonna lie, I cried like a baby. I cried before, like as soon as I stepped up there to start talking, it was just like tears. It was such an overwhelming moment. And honestly, that in a previous life, I would have a previous life. 15, 10 to 15 years ago, I would have said that was evidence of God. The fact that I stepped down there and the moment I stepped up there, I immediately started crying because those are the experiences that people often say are spiritual or supernatural, and that's their evidence for God. But I've enlightened my understanding. And so I understand how my biology works. I understand how my sensitivities work. I also understand how sociology works and psychology works, And so this moment was so emotional for me because it was an emotional moment, and it was beautiful. And it like everybody was crying. It was a crying fest. But in just one of the most beautiful ways, we embraced each other. And then after that, we ate marshmallows and we ate hot dogs. And well, I'm okay. Let me be honest. They ate marshmallows, hot dogs, and chips. I snuck off with a friend and rolled a few. You know what I'm saying? But no, it was nice. Now, when I got there, I was already surviving off of 2 hours of sleep. Um, 2 hours of sleep in the past 48 hours. So the people who invited me, or basically who sponsored me to be there, took me to my cabin and said, "Hey, man, go ahead and get you at least another 2 hours of sleep and then meet us back." And then I went in my cabin and I got ready and I said, "You know what? I'm here. I'm up. I'm jumping in." And so I did that. I jumped in, but after the ritual and after rolling a few, it was time for me to crash, which means I missed the karaoke party, which I really hate because while I was crashing, I could hear the music, which meant it was real. It must have been like one hell of a good time because you have no idea how far my cabin was from the place where they were doing the karaoke party, but yet I could hear the music, or like subtly, you know what I'm saying? But I really wanted to. I'm not gonna miss it next year. I tell you that because next year I probably won't fly. I'll likely drive if it's in the same place. But there was also the meditation and mindfulness where and Candace Gorham did that one as well, and that was amazing. Now I meditate, I practice mindfulness. It's been extremely helpful for me, for my mental health, and just for the way that I engage with other people. My definition of professionalism actually comes from my practice of mindfulness, and so for me professionalism is just the, I know this is not a word, but it's my word, so I'm using it. It's a thoracity of concern, which basically means thorough concern. But I like the poetic nature of the thoracity of concern. But yeah, thorough concern, not to be confused with thoracity, right? But yeah, thorough concern, and that's really kind of what mindfulness is. It's this awareness. It's this, you know, you want to say it's an understanding, and understanding plays a part in it, but it's a little more open to understanding. We don't often think of understanding as closed off, but understanding is something that's already established. Mind awareness is something that is continually being established. Like I have an understanding of sociological principles, right? But I also have a awareness of sociological evolution, which means things are still constantly changing. And so which means there are things that I understood yesterday that my awareness will bring new understanding to. Right. But she talked about several different types of meditative processes like grounding. What was it? Positive muscle something. I don't want to mess it up, but for those of you who know, which I've never really engaged in the more physical types of meditation. Um, and so, like, one of the grounding aspects was like running water over your hands. And I was like, oh man. Because when I shower, like, I prefer to, there are times where I just prefer to have hot water running down the back of my head. And that's that. I would have used the word meditative, but I would have never considered that an actual kind of meditative practice. And now I do. And then, of course, there was brunch and book club that I got to be a part of called Spilling the Tea, where Dr. Darrell Ray was talking about sex and God, and that was an incredible conversation. Um, Sharing information on sometimes the pseudo psychology behind sexual addictions, that in many times a lot of Christian thought has kind of subverted psychological academia, you know, and have popularized things that are just not founded. They're not sustainable. And then one of the phenomena that Dr. Ray pointed out is in his studies, his works, and his observation is that a lot of times people who think they have these hyperactive sex drives and stuff, and not to say hyperactive in a negative way, but a lot of preachers who feel like they're struggling with pornography and sex and stuff like that. Many of them, once they deconvert, those things become less issues for them because it's no longer a negative. It's no longer a forbidden fruit, right? So if I tell you, don't think about a red elephant, your mind doesn't really work that way. So your mind it doesn't hear the don't think, it just hears red elephant. And now you have to think about the red elephant, you know? So our minds don't, and that was something that was an exact example that Dr. Ray used. Our brains don't really work off of negatives, like don't do this, dang, but most things don't. That's good. Okay, I'm gonna come back to that. All right. And then the songwriting workshop. Now, I'm gonna be honest. Shelly, if you see this, please don't be mad. I had no plans on attending the songwriting workshop. And I don't know, and at least two of my other friends said the same thing, that they were and we're all singers, we're musicians and things of that nature. And I think that's why, it's just like you just assume that this is going to kind of be lame, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it because I'm going to be honest, and I'm not going to let anybody stop me from being honest. I kind of figured that these would just be old folk. And so like I felt like maybe the music wouldn't be my stilo, you know what I'm saying? But oh my goodness, Shelly Siegel was absolutely amazing. And I didn't know it was Shelly the whole time we were there because I saw her when I was there and I didn't know it was her. I've seen pictures of Shelly before, but I didn't know it was her because I hadn't really attached to the idea of the music workshop at all. Even though I love music, and I mean I love music, but I guess that kind of deals with some of the triggering and trauma that you have because I was a part of church workshops, music workshops my whole life, and it was just like I don't know, kind of felt like it would be triggering. And there were some things that I thought would be triggering that ended up happening that ended up not being triggering for me, but did end up being triggering for some other folks. But Shelly, I remember we were sitting in a session long before her session, and she was singing A Whole New World behind me, and like she was like two tables across, and she was just singing it kind of low under voice, but I could hear it. Like I pick up stuff like that, and I was like, oh my god, somebody has an amazing voice. And so I ended up coming to the songwriting workshop, and she's sitting there with a guitar. She even broke one of the strings and still powered through, which that's just the sign of a true artist right there to me. And what the songwriting workshop was literally writing a song in real time. And we wrote it as a group. Everybody's in the room. We're writing the song. She's doing her thing on her guitar. She's found a good key to play in. Okay, I like this. I like this. And I think I actually have the lyrics because it was dope, and it was just like, if I put myself last, will I? And, so she start right there. You know what? And somebody say, will I finally be worthy of it? Will I finally be worthy of it? Somebody will say, if I pour myself out, if I pour myself out, can I, can I finally be rid of this shit? Oh, I like that. Can I finally be rid of this shit? And it was just like, if I stand on broken glass for you. So just, it was a wonderful experience. And just, for me, many of you know, especially if you're part of our Sunday sessions, how important music is to me and how much I want to integrate it in what we do because it was a major part of my experience with the church. And this was just a moment to live in a moment that I've been missing forever. And that's just communal music. And that's what I often tell people, that gospel music isn't religious music. It's just that religious people are the ones who gravitate towards it. Gospel music is community music, you know, and you ain't got to call it gospel. But we need community music. I used to tell people about that all, I talk about that stuff, that the reality is church gives people a place to be themselves, expand in their gifts and do all types of other things as a community, where you don't have to be the best singer in the world to participate. and you don't get that everywhere. But it was beautiful. Even non-singers were in there just enjoying it. And I mean, like, and again, this was a moment with tears. And then, of course, it ended with the secular relaunch and just closing remarks from Gail Jordan, which, oh my goodness, I think her speech was maybe only about 20 minutes long, but she killed it. It was amazing. Um, like I could talk about the Recovering from Religion retreat all day. These people have become a friend of my mind. Something that was very interesting for me because again, and I made this known, especially in some of the interviews that I was doing, that this was uncomfortable. Like I almost called and said I wasn't going to go because it was just the black guy from Alabama going to be in the Virginia woods with a bunch of white folk. Historically, that shit don't bode well. So I was thinking about that the whole way up that weird, winding, narrow road. It's like, bruh, like this really could be the start of a horror movie. This could be some Get Out type shit going on. But it wasn't. For the first time in my life, and I mean literally, for the first time in my life, I was in a room that was majority white. I mean, there were some Hispanics, there were some black folk, but it was majority white. And not one time while there, over the entire weekend, did I feel like my race was a negative issue. Not one time while I was there the entire weekend did I feel like I had to change the way that I talked or change the way that I interacted with other people. I could say as many motherfuckers as I want, and nobody felt the need to call me ghetto or a thug. You know what I'm saying? It was beautiful, primarily because there were so many other motherfuckers being thrown around. Like literally the ritual night. And I think that's why that was so powerful for me because everybody was ever be able to be honest. And it was just like, fuck this shit and burn it. And I was like, yeah. And then somebody said something and I said, preach, motherfucker. And it was just, we just had a wonderful time. Okay. I'm sorry. But it was awesome. And then I got to add some closing remarks as well, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, because I encouraged everybody else to do a 60-second video to share on their channel. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go that extra step and I'm just going to go ahead and dedicate a whole video to talking about this experience as a way of promoting what Recovering from Religion is doing and as a way to let other people know that, hey, let's be there together next week. And not next week, but next year. And if you consider yourself, I don't want to say if you consider yourself, because you should not consider yourself a minority. A minority is a statistical designation, not an identity. But if you're black, I'll put it that way. Like if you're black and you're like, oh, I've kind of wanted to go to something like this, but I've been nervous. Give it a try. Black non-believers were very well represented at this, and like it was amazing. With some of the work that we were doing there, one of the things I realized is that, and I'm not saying this as a blanket statement. I'm saying this as my experience. Every racist I've met has been a Christian. I've never met a racist who wasn't a Christian. I never met a racist who didn't have a religious reason as to why they believed that black people should be less than them or any other group of people. And then because I was thinking, I was like, why is this so comfortable for me? Because typically, like, I'm not comfortable, but I'm really good at masking. And I didn't feel like I had to mask at all this entire weekend. And I was like, why is this so how is being around this group of white folk different than being around every group of white folk I've been around my entire life? Oh, these are non-believers. These people don't navigate the world with their superstitions and their presuppositions. And it's ignorance that empowers racism, not curiosity. Hello. All right. So now let's get to the part of why I was there, how I got there. Okay. So again, because your boy does not have margin. I am no longer broke, but I am still very poor. So I cannot afford to just get up and go anywhere. This was paid for me and a few others by a production company that we've been a part of, that we've been working with as a part of a documentary. I've been working with them since May. Some of the other ones have been working a little longer. And this is how we got there. So I got an email literally the week before last, or it might have been the beginning of last week, like the weekend before last week, saying, "Hey, Darante, guess what? We're going to be at Recovering from Religion. We want you to come. We're going to do some filming and some production. We're going to cover everything, and just let us know." And so I was like, "Oh, okay," because like work is hectic for me, and when I say work right now is hectic for me, I'm looking for a way out. And that's just me being honest. I don't care if somebody from my company sees this. It's a toxic work environment. And this weekend kind of helped me realize that even more. And so, and I've told this to everybody that I work with at work. I'm going to fight until it's fixed, or I'm going to fight until they fire me. Because I don't like working in toxicity. I left church for that type of shit, you know? Um, so, but it was a lot to pull together last minute, but we did it. We made it happen, and we got there. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this. It's David Cohen is the person who put us together. He's an independent filmmaker and the founder of Pale Blue Dot Films. Aha, Pale Blue Dot. Those of you who know, you know. But it's a production company dedicated to creating documentaries that challenge societal norms, promote secular values, and highlight human resilience. Cohen's work often focuses on fostering critical thought through storytelling, especially in areas related to science, human rights, and secularism. His notable works include Afghan Dreamers, a documentary about a girls' robotics team from Afghanistan navigating the challenges of a conservative society. Notice how conservative society is never a good thing. But Pale Blue Dot Films aims to provoke dialogue on modern issues, encouraging viewers to reconsider assumptions and think critically about societal beliefs. Cohen's productions emphasize humanism and scientific curiosity, and often advocate for social justice through the narratives. And if you haven't seen Afghan Dreamers, go look it up. It's available on streaming platforms. Go find it. You'll enjoy. Very moving, very well done. Well, the way I'm saying it, just with those short, static sentences, that's kind of like Trump, right? Very well done. Go watch it. You gotta watch it now. It's great. It's the best thing ever, type of thing. Um, but okay. So David's personal journey into filmmaking was shaped by his interest in secularism, the exploration of truth, and advocacy for marginalized communities. Pale Blue Dot Films is a reflection of these values, with each production being a step towards highlighting human potential in often difficult circumstances. Cohen's work is widely respected within documentary filmmaking circles, contributing to important discussions about the intersection of faith, reason, and human progress. And just for those of you who don't know, David is not the type who just kind of talks to talk. He's actually involved in the work. And just to be fair, and I don't want to say fair, but just to kind of provide some color to this, he doesn't necessarily have to. Um, and this is why. David is not only the founder of Pale Blue Dot Films, but also an influential figure in the tech and venture capital sectors. Who knows what those words means, right? He's a partner at Bessemer Ventures, one of the most prominent venture capital firms, where he has overseen investments in key technology companies, including LinkedIn, Twitch, Twilio, and Wix. All of these are platforms that I use or have used, with exception of Twitch. Cohen has made a significant impact within the secular community through his advocacy of science, skepticism, and secular humanism, producing films that focus on science, education, and human rights. And that's why I said, he doesn't necessarily not have to as in like, oh, no, this is something I have to do. But in the sense that this man is ultimately a millionaire, like he got 99 problems, money ain't one. He could just be like, I'll just protect my little family, I'll protect my money, and then I'll just stay there. But no, he's actually out here doing the work. He's a part of several boards for humanist organizations, atheist organizations. He exercises some philanthropy in that way, and he does this work of creating these documentaries. He also has some funny shows too that he's been a part of directing and producing. He'd probably be upset if I said it, but I said it. Sorry, David, don't kick me out of the documentary. But in addition to filmmaking, Cohen's successful ventures in the tech industry have provided him with the platform and resources to support various secular initiatives, helping to bridge the gap between entertainment, education, and activism. His films often address secular themes and challenge religious norms, making him a recognized figure in both the secular and tech communities, which I think is important for a lot of reasons. Cohen is actively involved in promoting critical thinking and skepticism, frequently supporting secular movements and organizations. His commitment to science and humanism is evident in the content he produces with Pale Blue Dot Films, and he works to encourage discussions about secularism and human rights through both his business and creative efforts. And this is exciting to me because I am also an aspiring filmmaker. Like one day, like it won't be no time in the next 5 years, unless just, I don't want to say it won't be. I don't project it to be, unless things just continue to trend in ways that I can't project, you know. So that's really cool, being a part of the process, seeing the production crew getting their stuff done. Um, but the company's broader mission is to use media as a tool for secular advocacy, aiming to foster a more scientifically literate and socially just society. Through his combined efforts in filmmaking, tech, and activism, David Cohen plays a pivotal role in advancing secular values in modern society. Now, I didn't read the contract in detail, so I don't know how much information I can give about the project that we're working on. But for the most part, it lines up with everything that we've seen here, and it lines up with the recovering from religion as well, because that's ultimately what this documentary is about. And I got to meet four of the other participants in the documentary, and we all became like friends. Like the first one I met was HG, and we'll talk about HG a little more. I'm gonna want to actually I'm gonna want to have all of these on my I'm gonna have all of these on my channel. I'm going to have all of these on my channel. Yep. Okay. I got to clear it with David, but I'm going to have all of them on my channel because we had some amazing conversations. And so I was going to talk about them now, but I don't want to do that. I just want to tell you that I met some amazing people. One was a former worship pastor who's now a non-believer and is having to navigate that, being in a family, intermediate family, that he is raised in belief. The other one was Alan, which is like, man, Alan is a white man that I wish I could have met when I was young. Probably could have saved me a lot of heartache. You know, he was more passionate about racism than even I am, and that warmed my heart so much. You know, um, just to see somebody like that. He spent, nearly 70 years being a part of the Southern Baptist Church. You know, I may be expanding that a little bit. And he actually deconverted while pastoring, but kept pastoring, and didn't tell anybody, and then was secretly performing pagan weddings for people and stuff like that. And nobody was the wiser until he made mention in one of his sermons that he didn't think Trump was a good guy. And so then his members start trying to find a way to get rid of him. And that's how they end up discovering that he was an atheist, and he got fired and just, ultimately lost everything. Um, the conversations he and I had were so enriching. The only reason I'm not talking about HG as much, and you will know, is because HG is actually his pseudonym. I know his real name. You don't. And so I don't want to give too much revealing information about him until he makes that step, which he is making that step. But Alan, like it was hoy, it was just beautiful. And then we met Sarah and Natalie. Okay. Okay. So Sarah, we spent all yesterday evening together, and then we not yesterday, but the day before yesterday, we spent that whole evening together. And I mean, when I say evening, we didn't retire until like a little bit after midnight. We went and got something to eat, and then we went back to the hotel, and then after that, everybody crashed, and then we hugged in the morning and went our separate ways. But these are amazing people. Sarah, parents of pastors and missionaries, and homeschooled, and all of those things. A major part of her deconversion story was coming across scriptures that promote sexual violence against women. You know, um, Natalie, which was another black person. And I was like, yay, there's another black person on cast, because that's how I feel. That's me. And they were both like, all of us were singers. All of us were singers, and that was awesome. And then Sarah is actually like, my brother introduced me, a guy who I call my brother. He introduced me to a song about 2 years ago called "Freak Like Me." I found out yesterday that "Freak Like Me" is done by Sarah, and I was like, "Oh snap! I'm geeking out," And so, and then Natalie was just absolutely amazing. She's a stunt actress. She's actually worked with some of my favorite people in Hollywood, like Marsai Martin. Which, to be fair, Marsai Martin is one of my favorite people in Hollywood because her character in Blackish reminds me of my youngest daughter. Actually, the twins in Blackish reminds me of our youngest kids, my youngest daughter and my youngest son. But then also because our last name is Martin, so that obviously, I'm vain like that. But no, she's done excellent work, and these are just amazing people. I had planned to go into detail about my relationships with these people and my experiences with them over this weekend, but y'all saw that aha moment that I had. So instead of me doing that, I'm going to come back later and have all of them on the channel if I can get them here, because we all live in different time zones. I think we're not that different. It's Texas, Florida, and then California. But but man, listen, I hope you all have enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed sharing this information. A few things that I want you to do is I want you to go check out Recovering from Religion if you did not know about them before today. If you didn't know about the fall excursions, or if you had never seen the fall excursions or heard about them, go check that out. The itinerary for this past one is still up. And I'm pretty sure soon that they'll be getting up the pre-registration for next year's. And if they don't, I'm going to be pushing them to, because I plan on talking about this a lot more. Recovering from Religion and Black Nonbelievers are two organizations that I am committing myself to, making sure that I can, as my platform continues to grow, that I continue to make noise for them. Number one, because Recovering from Religion is ultimately the same thing that I'm doing. you know we are working for the same outcomes using somewhat different strategies, but there are ways that we can partner and make wonderful things happen. And damn it, that's what I'm here for. And that's the same thing for Black Nonbelievers. So I do want you to go check out Recovering from Religion. I do want you to go check out their fall excursion. I do want you to consider joining the fall excursion next year, right? Because here's my goal. My goal is to accelerate secularism. My goal is to accelerate progress. My goal is to serve as a catalyst for accelerated secularism. It is. It is indeed. And so, because of that, I have highly ambitious and audacious goals. And so, this year, there were a lot of people like, oh, it was amazing. But I want to see if we can do even more next year. Let's call it Project 2025. But no, go check it out, see what you think. Um, Look up the hashtag RFR 2024. See if you find what some other people have talked about and what it meant for them. And if you were one of the people, like Unclean Unicorn, hello, if you were one of the people who were there, let us know about it in the comments. Would you be willing, if you were there, would you share about it in the comments so that other people can identify and relate and know what that experience is? Because I've only shared my experience, and my experience will resonate with some, but we need more people talking about it, right? All right, so that's all I got for now. I hope you all have enjoyed this, man, because I have. I meant to do this video yesterday. I could not make the time, primarily because of fussing at people at work, and getting off the plane and all that stuff. I literally no, and just to kind of throw this, and this is why I say my work culture is toxic. I can't even give all the details, but it just wasn't great. I got bothered the whole weekend. And then I tried to take yesterday off as a mental health day and still got bothered the whole day. So I finally just clocked in and started cussing people out. Yep, that's what I did. Because I said, I'm going to fight it until it's fixed, or I'm going to fight it until you fire me. I don't know. And if they fire me, hey, some secular community organization out there, you need somebody with extensive experience in event management, project management, human resources, all of that stuff, I'll let your boy. Because your boy needs to make a move. All right, that's all I got. Listen, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider joining this community and supporting this community in whatever way that makes sense for you. And of course, check out the merch because it is dope as fuck. You know what I'm saying? All right, so until next time, man, y'all keep rising, stay progressive, and stay beautiful if you can. I'll holla.